Fam, good morning. What is going on? It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for watching my show. Today is Wednesday, November 13th. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? Here's a look at the college football playoff bracket. And look, I get it. It's all rat poison. It's too early to even be thinking about the playoffs. We can't help it. That's what we do. And look, if Alabama was to play Indiana, I just saw Matt Be Great tweeted that he put his house on the line 1,000,000%. Yo, you take Alabama over Indiana every day of the week. What's going on, everybody? We're going to talk about the college football playoffs, and I'm going to open up the call line in just a minute. This is the call line number. I'm going to take your calls. I want some reaction in terms of the college football playoffs from last night. Thank you very much for joining me today on the show. And I think when you look to the college football playoff bracket, a couple things stand out to me, and I have to make an update from last night. So when you look at the college football playoff system, the four power conferences, they're going to get buys in the playoffs, right? But you also have the group of five, the highest ranked conference champ from the group of five that is going to get in the playoffs as well. That's why you have Boise State sitting at that number 12 spot. When you look to Georgia being a first team out, I think it raises red flags. But who are you going to take out? And I think it will shake out by the end of the season because I do think Indiana loses. I do think Penn State is a poser. And, I mean, look, Ole Miss versus Penn State, give me Ole Miss all day, all right? In Notre Dame, I get it. They're not part of a conference, but I do feel that they found some sort of a loophole to make the college football playoffs. I think they are a pretender as well. And I just saw going through X that Tennessee's quarterback Nico, he will play against Georgia this coming weekend, which I don't think necessarily gives Tennessee that much of an edge. I think Georgia's going to be the favorite, and I would imagine when all is said and done that Tennessee is going to be the last team out. And I would imagine that four teams from the SEC make it. So right now you have Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas from the SEC. Those would be the teams to make the playoffs. I mean, you know how I feel about Miami. I'm sure I feel the same way as you about Miami, and I'm not really feeling it. But the call line is open, 205-850-1994. I want to talk about the college football playoffs. Here's what some other items that we're tracking this week. I was looking at the NFL mock draft. You know, and it was interesting because as mock drafts start to come out during this point in time, I was looking for where specifics had Jalen Milroe, for example. It's kind of been all over the board. I saw a recent mock draft put out by Sports Illustrated, and it had Jalen Milroe going number 5 to the Raiders. It also had Tyler Booker going at number 17 to the Bears. I looked at 24/7. Now, this was put out a couple days prior, and I had Jalen going to Cleveland, had LT Overton going to Atlanta, and Jahad Campbell going to Washington. And I looked at SB Nation. I didn't see Jalen Milroe in there, but they do have Tyler Booker going to Seattle and LT Overton going to the Falcons. So in two different models, we've had LT Overton going to the Falcons, and two models have Jalen going in the first round early, top 10, and then some other specifics have Jalen Milroe not going in the first round. So we open up the call-in line. We got the 850. As I said, the call-in line will be open today. Call in. Let's talk some college football playoff talk. Let's talk some mock draft. Anything on the board that you want to hit on. I would imagine that there's probably some big recruiting news coming up as well today. It looks like Dawson Merritt could flip from Alabama to Nebraska. It looks like Caleb Cunningham could flip from Alabama to Ole Miss, and it looks like Ivan Taylor could flip from Michigan to Bama. So, look, until these guys are signed, they are going to flip back and forth from these different schools. We'll track it as it comes in, but we'll start off the call-in line with the 850. Let's do it. Hey, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle, it's Cody from Florida.
Cody, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here, man. Welcome to the show. Go ahead, man.
Hey, look, I'm shocked about the playoff brackets, man. Alabama and Indiana, like literally, who's up in the committee right there that's hyping these Big Ten teams up because none of them has faced a big caliber playoff team like Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and all these other ones. BYU, these are all jabroni teams, basically. Never, ever in my lifetime have I ever seen BYU, who's 9-0, trying to think they can go and win against like good God, Texas.
Mm.
That's like Ole Miss and Penn State. Who is Penn State? What
Yo.
did they do for a living? How much wins did they have in their lifetime? What percentage do you think they got to win this? But they have a seed for the ESPN for, like, let's say Penn State has a 54% chance of winning the conference finals. I think what happened is someone in the committee is just feeding all this BS to these people at ESPN and all that stuff, and this is all complete rat poison. If I was going to be this, Georgia should be in replace of, like, Boise State or, Indiana or somewhat. But to be honest, somebody's hyping these Big Ten teams because the reason why is there's no – like, Indiana has faced nobody that's the caliber of Alabama. Everybody knows that. So in other cases, these teams need to play it out fairly where the ACC and the Big Ten, they need to understand that, hey, you guys haven't faced these top talent teams, and now you guys want to be the big hype having, like, BYU a buy-off in the second round and then have Miami in the second round when their two is as soft as cotton tissue because the last person is 0-7 on the leaderboards.
Mm.
That's like Cleveland going against Tennessee Titans. Guys, it makes no sense. Yeah, this whole thing is a feat. You know what I would love to see? Alabama, Colorado in the finals because that's box office. Everybody gets paid. Kalen DeBoer meets a legend in prime time and Warren Sapp and Shadir Sanders. That's pretty much the best bet to make ESPN happy is basically Colorado, Alabama. I would put money on that.
Thanks for calling in, Cody. I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for starting out the show, man. I'll get to you on the other side. All right. Thanks, brother. All right. Cody calling in from Florida. Hot about the Big Ten and the lack of schedule strength. Yeah, I don't think anybody's really going after Oregon or even Ohio State. I think most of us see those teams as contenders, but major flaws with Penn State and Indiana, I think, and that's just not poking at the Big Ten. I think we're poking at them as teams and the caliber and the lack of caliber that they played on their schedule. I mean, it's amazing to think that Indiana, who has a 10-0 record and is ranked number 5 in the college football rankings and seeded as number 7, hosting Alabama, that they haven't played one top 25 team. That is going to change not this weekend, but the next weekend when Indiana travels to Columbus to take on Ohio State. I would imagine that Ohio State has their way with Indiana. And we know this. Alabama has to keep on winning to keep their playoff hopes alive. It starts this weekend taking on Mercer. It's all rat poison, but at 7-2, and I found it interesting. The seating committee. And I'll get to my next callers. We have a 910 and 865 coming up next. They said every single weekend they start out with a new slate when ranking the teams. I do like that for Alabama in terms of what have you done for me lately, and you look to how Alabama played against Missouri. And look how they played against LSU. The fact that they're running the football 83 times for almost 600 yards and 10 touchdowns in the last 2 games. That says a lot about Alabama and how they are transforming as a team at the back end of the season. You don't want to lose at the back end of the season, even with the 12-team playoff, considering all these teams that could make the bracket. We go back to the phone lines. We got a 910. Hey, thanks for calling in. You're online with Kyle Henderson. Who am I online with and where are you calling in from?
Yo, what up, Kyle? This is Christian from California.
Hey, Christian, what's up, man? I appreciate you joining the show, man. Come with it, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, for the most part, I can't really be too mad at where Alabama is right now. I do think they should be a little bit higher, just considering the fact that Notre Dame literally doesn't play anybody, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, I'm cool with taking Alabama over Indiana. A few weeks ago when I called, I swear I kind of predicted Alabama would be around this part in time, and that's exactly where it's holding true too. What I do have a problem with, though, is just more of the fact that the Big Ten is very overrated, apart from Oregon and Ohio State.
Yep.
And I don't even think Ohio State is as great as what most people think they are. But when are we going to give Ohio State an away night game? Every single one of their big games that they're going to play is going to be at big, Big Ten kickoff noon, like whatever the little thing's called.
Mm-hmm.
They play Penn State, 12 p.m.
Yeah.
They're about to play Indiana on the road at 12 p.m. And the only night game they played on the road, they lost. So why are we still giving them all these noon games when we should actually test them? Alabama played on the road at night twice. Georgia's played on the road at night. So why can't Ohio State do the same thing? Or do y'all not want to give them an atmosphere where they're at a clear disadvantage? And the next thing I have a problem with is what these there's no way that Indiana, Miami, Notre Dame should be in front of Tennessee. And that's coming from an Alabama fan. There's no way, or BYU. There's no way those teams should be in front of Tennessee. Tennessee's resume, they got a win over Alabama. BYU, they have a win over SMU. Cool, I get it. But when you struggle against Utah the way that you struggled, you deserve to drop. Miami deserves a drop. And then Indiana hasn't played a single top 25 team.
Yeah.
They're about to do that this week. And when they lose by God knows how many points, what are you going to do with them then? You're gonna say, oh, well, that's one loss, that's one bad game? Or are you going to actually honor what you're saying and actually give them get them out? Because out of all the 12 teams, Indiana's clearly the worst one. Clearly. I'll take Boise State over Indiana.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, like, who would win in that game. I think I might pick Indiana, but, I mean, I think it would be pretty close, I mean, between Boise State. And the thing is, and I forgot to tell Cody this, one of the highest-ranked group of 5 conferences has to make the playoffs as well, and they will be seeded. So, for example, like the group of 5, the highest-ranked group of 5 champion would be Boise up here. So Boise has to make the playoffs along with the 4 big conferences which are taking the spots. But, I mean, obviously, BYU taking up space. I mean, they're seated. And what's crazy is they're ranked 6th. And then they're seated 3rd. And then Miami, I mean, even though they're ranked 9th, they still would host a playoff game in this scenario. Anything else you want to hit on, Christian?
I mean, the only other thing I can say is at this point, if we're going to keep Notre Dame where they're at, I guess that's cool. But Notre Dame should never, and I mean never, have a first-round bye, especially not playing a championship conference game. So if they're not going to join a conference, they should never be able to get a first-round bye ever.
Yeah, and I think that's in the rules too. I think until they actually win a conference championship, then they can't get one of the top 4 spots. So I wouldn't worry about Notre Dame. I wouldn't worry about Notre Dame if they were undefeated. I've seen this whole story like so many times. I mean, every single year it seems like Notre Dame is up in the fold and then they lose one of the games. Appreciate you calling in, Christian. Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, for sure, Kyle.
All right, man. Take it easy. Angel from Pigeon Forge, man. Let's do it. Angel, what's up, man? Thanks for calling in.
Kyle?
What's up, bro? Thanks for calling in, man. Welcome to the show.
Yes. First of all, I got to talk about this ranking here. These rankings are bad because Indiana, who have they played? Same thing with Penn State. They played Ohio State, but they lost. They choked. And BYU should have dropped too as well, and Miami. And because the way they played against Georgia Tech, I'm not impressed. I knew Cam Ward wasn't going to win that game because he had an off day, clearly. But also, Notre Dame, they have no business being in the ranked playoffs because we've seen the same song and dance with them every single time. They win big playoffs, and they get absolutely dominated by Alabama and whoever else. But mainly that was Alabama, though, the whole time. Alabama owns Notre Dame. But, yeah, I don't like these rankings. I know they're not final yet, but not Notre Dame, but this whole field in general is just a mess. It's just whack because I don't think they have seen the strength of schedule, their strength of record. That's what people get mixed up on is their record and their strength of schedule. And it's just complete BS and also Big Ten bias because of Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. But I do not agree with these rankings at all.
Look at Indiana's schedule. I have it up on the screen, Angel. So you got Florida International, all right. Then you have Western Illinois. Then you have a trip to Pasadena and take on UCLA. Then you take on Charlotte. You take on Coach Locks. You go play Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, at Michigan State, beat a depleted Michigan team, and then you have this one-game season against Ohio State on the road. It's kind of your playoff play-in game, and then Purdue on the back end. But, man, that is – like this schedule – it's just, man, and you know, and people would be saying the same thing if Alabama played this type of a schedule. Hey, by the way, for those of you talking about Tennessee's quarterback, I just saw Shannon Terry, the CEO of On3, he said that Nico's playing. So I would assume, I mean, that he's, you know, those guys seem to know everything there is to know about everything. So I just saw that, just throwing it out there that Terry said that he's playing this weekend, for what it's worth. What else you got, Angel?
Yeah, and also, with Georgia being left out, that's just messed up, man. Come on. Clearly, Georgia's a better team than the committee think they are, but they are a good team. And this whole division thing as well, like with divisions, they shouldn't really gotten away with it because it's a mess right now. With, you know, everyone tied for second but Texas. I mean, this has got to be figured out somehow with the divisions and everything. You think the divisions, they should be brought back? Mess?
I mean, I think there's a couple things. Here's Georgia's schedule, just for you guys to look at this. Georgia played Clemson, Tennessee Tech, at Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, at Texas, Florida, at Ole Miss. I mean, it's just crazy. Georgia went to Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. And I mean, they beat Texas, and they're being penalized for it. I think what they had to do, the committee and this whole college football, to get to 12 teams, they had to present to each of the conferences that they would make a quarterfinal spot if they won their conference. Otherwise, they wouldn't agree to it. So that's kind of where we are. And then the group of 5 was like, what about us? They said, hey, we'll get you in. You probably be 12, but we'll get you in. And I think that's how it went. But, man, Georgia's schedule.
Yeah.
Whew, man, and look, Clemson continues to climb. I know Clemson lost one on the back end recently, but, I mean, that's a brutal schedule. I mean, how many games would Indiana win on the schedule? Seriously. Would they be like 6-5? I don't know. I have no idea. Anything else, Angel?
5-4.
Right? Yeah, there you go. 5-4.
Yes. Way getting rid of divisions and everything. It's just like a whole crazy mess. But I really do think that there should be some more playoff implications. Like, instead of like having, like, you gotta have your strength of record, you know, because that's just what bothers me. Strength of schedule is more important than their strength of record, because, like, if they get into the playoffs, they're going to get blown out. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, we've seen it before happen. But, I mean, that's what I believe. They just bring everything back, bring back divisions and all that, and this whole playoff thing. If they're going to do that, they might as well make it the 25 teams. If I was being honest, if they're going to do that, they might as well just get rid of the rivalry games and all that, make it 25, top 25 playoff. No, I'm just kidding. But that would ruin everything. But anyway, Kyle, you have a great day, man. Roll Tide.
All right. Appreciate
you.
You
probably
man.
Saw my comment. Okay, man. Good night. Or you have a good day.
No, I missed your comment inside the comment box. What was it, Angel?
Well, it was about their schedule, and I said it was complete BS.
Oh.
And, you know, they don't have no business being in there.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, Kyle, you have a good day, man.
All right, man. I got you, man. See ya. All right. Yeah.
Good, man. All
right, man. Roll Tide. Here's that was Angel out in Pigeon Forward. We got looks like we got Case and then a 513 calling in next. We'll get you guys in. Here's that tweet just recently posted by Shannon Terry, the head of On3. He's saying this is a report. Cristobal Garcia is saying that Nico is expected to play against Georgia is not expected to play. And then Shannon retweeted it and said he is playing. So, I don't know. Those guys are obviously super connected. So just kind of throwing it out there. We'll go back to the phone lines. We got an 813. Case, what's up, man? I appreciate you joining the show.
What's going on, Cal? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, doing good. It's Wednesday. Feeling good. A little rainy out here in Tuscaloosa, but we're moving towards 9-1 Mercer, a game. You know, this is look. These games are the rest of the games are rat poison because we don't even talk about them. Alabama already beat Mercer, right? Alabama already beat Oklahoma, and Alabama already beat Auburn. They're already in the playoffs. These are the rat poison.
Yeah.
This is rat poison season. We're in it. So
if there was one thing Nick Saban would be doing right now involving the team, it would be telling all the players that their games are not finished. That would be the only thing he would be doing right now.
Yeah, and the great thing, and I think Coach Kalen DeBoer even said this recently too, is I think they asked him about the playoffs last week, and he was like, I didn't even know the show, took place. And that's that's coach speak, but same thing that Coach Saban would say. It'd be like, what's the difference? He was like, number one, it doesn't matter. Number two, we lose, we're out. So his job is to keep his team focused and not looking at this graphic, which we have on the screen. Anyways, welcome, Case from Tampa, man. What's up, man? Appreciate you joining the show.
Yeah, man. The rankings, they matter. I like to see it's not just about the top 12, and it's not just about the first teams out. I like to see the rankings because it shows you, like, they ranked South Carolina, they've ranked all these teams, and we talked about it before that, Alabama was the only team that had 4 top 25 wins in those out of all those teams, including the ones in the top 4. So I like to see the rankings just because it shows you what the true strength of schedule is. Because at the beginning of the year, Nick Saban, the GOAT, brought this up. Everybody was talking about the preseason and everybody's schedule and what it looked like. And he said he thought it was stupid that they were even considering strength of schedule at the beginning of the year because you have no idea who's going to be good and who's not. I mean, everybody in their preseason brackets had Florida State winning the ACC, and look where they are. They're terrible.
Yeah.
So – I do like to see the rankings. It's entertaining, but it absolutely is rat poison. As far as Notre Dame goes, I mean, listen, all year you've heard what I said about Notre Dame, man. They are fraudsters. They always will be. And I'm fine with them being where they are because at the end of the day, they're just a bye week in the playoffs. That's pretty rat poison like. But listen, Notre Dame is so overrated. I would take. Boise State has one loss against a close game against Oregon, the number 1 team in the nation, and you're telling me you're going to rank Notre Dame, who lost to North Illinois, over Boise State? That's a joke. It's a joke. I don't agree with it, but it'll all work itself out. I don't think there's a Big Ten bias. I think the committee knows how some of these games are going to play out. I don't at this point. I still don't think Indiana is that of an amazing team because they literally play nobody. I mean, they have played absolutely nobody. You could take a middle-of-the-run SEC team like Arkansas, and this is not SEC bias. I mean, it is. It sounds like it. Maybe if you're like a Northwestern fan or something. But if you took Arkansas, if you took South Carolina, if you took these middle-of-the-pack SEC teams and put them in the Big Ten, they're going to have the same record that Indiana has right now. It's just the truth. I mean, what's their best win? Michigan? Michigan is 5-6. They're not good. It's just reality. Penn State, they got compared to the Ole Miss. They're the Ole Miss of the Big Ten, or vice versa. The Ole Miss is the Penn State of the SEC. But Lane Kiffin, and they got past that hump and they beat Georgia. So I do think there are some teams that aren't properly rated, but I predicted this 2 years ago when they said that we were going to expand it to the 12-team playoff. There are people that are still going to be left out. Like, look at Army. They're undefeated and could win, and they could still be left out. And I wouldn't be upset with that per se and that's not anti-patriotic, anti-Army, but I'm pro – I want the best teams in the playoffs.
For sure. Yeah.
And if you tell me that there's a, 10-3 conference championship runner-up versus an undefeated Army, that team has a better chance of winning it all than an Army. And now if you're an old school fan, you're going to be upset because, you couldn't afford to lose one game, let alone 2 or 3. So I get it from a lot of different perspectives. But it's just, there's a lot. But I'm not, as long as Alabama keeps doing what they're doing, they don't buy into the rat poison, and they just continue with their season the right way, I'm okay with them either not making the SEC championship and just riding it out and getting a home game playoff, or I wouldn't really be opposed to us getting to the SEC because, I mean, if we go to the SEC championship, we're either playing Texas or Texas A&M. And honestly, we beat Georgia, and Georgia beat Texas. We can beat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We beat LSU. Texas A&M beat LSU. We can beat Texas A&M. So, some of the Alabama fans that are saying, I don't know if we want to make it because we may, if you're saying that we can beat those teams but we can't beat Texas or Texas A&M, you're just not believing in the team. I mean, I'll take a first week bye week gladly, but I'll also it's a win-win. That's all I'm saying. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
But what else we got, Kyle?
Well, I'm looking at Notre Dame's schedule right here. I mean, and so one thing is I have to say I like their schedule better than Indiana's. Okay, so just hear me out. And I still think I still think Notre Dame's a pretender, but just let's look at it for what it's worth. All right, so they beat Texas A&M in Kyle Field. You get some points there. You lose all those points that you gained because you lost to Northern Illinois, and then you beat Purdue, you beat Miami of Ohio, you beat Louisville. It was close. You beat Stanford, but this win, I think this one looks a little bit better. Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech just beat Miami, right? You beat Navy, and same with you. I love Navy, I love Army, I love all those teams. But what was interesting about this game, and I watched this game, they said Navy has not fumbled this season. Navy had 6 fumbles in this game. Then they beat Florida State, which we all thought would be a better game. On the back end, they have Virginia, Army, and USC. So that's Notre Dame's schedule. I don't know.
I mean, their best win is Texas A&M, clearly. But the reality, and here's the thing: that you have to be fair. You can't take away from somebody's win the same way you can't take away from somebody's loss. Last year Alabama lost early to a Texas team, and I would bet every single dollar that I've ever earned that if we would have played Texas at the end of the year, that team that played Georgia in the SEC championship that they said didn't have a chance, if we would have played Texas at the end when we were ready, I think we would have put the smack down, even if we were down in Texas, because that Texas team last year lost to Oklahoma, who was worse than they are this year. They almost lost to TCU, Kansas, and Iowa State. I really think we between our staff and our players, I just don't think we weren't as mentally prepared for that Texas game. And the same thing goes for the Notre Dame win over Texas A&M. It was the first game of the season for both of them, and I don't think Texas A&M knew their identity yet. I don't think they knew. I mean, it's the first year with their coach. I don't think they were ready, and they got caught with their pants down. And Notre Dame beat them, and then they go out and lose to North Illinois the next week, high off their win of a team that didn't have an identity yet. So, I mean, it's all about momentum. I think everything's going to play out in our favor as long as we win out, and just don't buy into the rat poison. I mean, I know it's cliche to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I appreciate the call in, man. Thanks for the continued support, Case. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, Kyle. Roll Tide.
All right, roll Tide to you. All right, we got a 5-3-1 and a 2-5-3 coming up next on Bama Football on YouTube. This just in from Mike Rodak, reporter for 24/7. He's saying, and this is that model, that website that I think we all crashed, bballornothing.net. Fun website. He put together basically like a conference calculator. Rodak here says an SEC championship game between number 15 Texas A&M and number 22 LSU remains a very plausible scenario right now, given tiebreakers, which would throw a fun little wrench into the current college football playoff rankings. So I think this looks like the continued model that we're seeing. I think there still is a way that Alabama could make the conference championship as well, but you imagine we get to this point in time and you have Texas A&M and LSU playing in the SEC championship game for really a playoff play-in game. One of those teams is not going to make it, and then you have Ole Miss, Alabama, I don't know, Georgia, I guess, the teams that aren't, playing in the championship game but still qualifying to make the tournament. I love it. The madness. I don't think the playoff committee thought is all these teams in the SEC would be tied with 2 losses. I don't know. I mean, the parity is absolutely wild. All right, we go back to the phone lines of 531. Hey, thanks for being patient. You're on line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on line with, and where are you calling in from?
It's Brad from Omaha calling in again. Kyle, how we doing this
What's
morning?
up, Brad? I appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for calling back, man. Good to hear from you. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. So looking at these initial, rankings for this week, the first thing that I noticed is I really like that Bama keeps moving up. And with the way we're positioned right now, I think Bama, right now, in my opinion, could finish as high as 6 or 7 in the final rankings with no SEC championship.
Mm-hmm.
I think the lowest we would finish is where we're at right now. And when I look at the current field, there's probably only 3 teams that I think Bama on neutral site, home, away, I think there's only 3 teams we would not be favored against. That would be Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas. That's it. I think Bama's at least a touchdown favorite against everybody else. I don't mind that we're projected to go to Bloomington right now, but I don't think we're going to finish as a first-round road team.
Mm-hmm.
With what's remaining on the schedule. I think we're going to get a home playoff game. And I know a lot of people have been saying, let's not do the SEC championship game. I'm kind of on board now with us getting to the SEC championship because I think even with 3 losses, if we're competitive in that game, I think the committee's going to see that we have 4 ranked wins inside the top 25, and I think they're going to respect that a lot more than say, oh, you got to the title game and you lost a 3rd game this year. We have to kick you out.
Yeah. Yeah, on the line with Brad Coleman from Omaha. Good call. Yeah, I agree with several of your points right there. I think when all is said and done, I think Alabama will be hosting a playoff game. I think it's silly to think that Alabama would travel to Indiana right now, even with those 2 teams, based on what Indiana's done. What I'm scared of is that the playoff committee is setting a precedence to strength of schedule does not matter. That's concerning to me. And I hope that's not the case because you have to take into account the parity and the strength in the SEC. How about this? Oceanic Jazz answers this, and I'll let you have a crack at it, Brad, and I'll answer it as well. He asks, here's my question. Sure. If Georgia beats Tennessee on Saturday and Bama wins out, is Tennessee or Bama the first team out? Which means more, Tennessee head-to-head over Bama or Bama's win over Georgia, who had just beat Tennessee?
So that's an interesting question. I'm actually going to say if Georgia loses, they are out.
Yeah.
Because when I look at it, they had to come back against Alabama. They were down, 23 points in the first half. Then they went on the road to Ole Miss. They lost by 18. We don't know what the score is going to be for Saturday till it's played. But I think they're going to look at Tennessee struggling on offense quite a bit this year, and they're going to say, okay, if this Georgia team can't beat Tennessee at home, we kind of got to leave them out because we've given them the benefit of the doubt with the Texas win. That's a good win on their resume, but can we really trust them with 3 losses to be a good team in the playoff field the way it's set right now?
Yeah, I think if Georgia beats Tennessee, I think Tennessee, look, it's kind of, you get to this point in time, you get to November, mid-November, it's a new week every week, right? And I think what have you done for me lately? That's why these style points matter. Like, for example, the win over LSU, there couldn't have been a better outcome for Alabama versus LSU than what was it, 45-13 or whatever, because those are style points at Baton Rouge. So that really boosted Alabama. Now, if you lose during this point in season, it's almost like you're kind of already in the playoffs in a sense. So like this Tennessee-Georgia game could low-key be a playoff play-in game for each of those teams, considering that we're now, jockeying for, the number 4 position for the SEC. So I think if Georgia beats Tennessee, I would imagine Tennessee's out, even though they did beat Alabama. I think what have you done for me lately? And that's losing against Georgia, who Alabama beat. It gets weird. I get it. But I think Tennessee fans would probably find themselves on the outside looking in. Anything else that you have, Brad?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think at this point, I've heard a couple podcasts saying, oh, there's a chance the SEC could get 5 teams in. I think Georgia-Tennessee is the final elimination game.
Yeah, me too.
Whichever team loses that game, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be out because with Tennessee, you'll have the loss to Georgia, you'll have the loss to Arkansas. They're going to look at that. And, they're both road losses. So if you're a road team in the playoff, they're probably going to consider that when they're trying to seed, and they'll be like, are they really going to be good for television? Because that's kind of what these playoffs are. For some teams, it's a television rating. It's not really the best teams. And I think when I look at the rest of the playoff field, I would have most of the teams that are in right now over Tennessee if they do end up losing, even with 2 losses. And I would put somebody else in.
Yeah. Good call, Brad. I appreciate you joining, man. Thanks for calling in back-to-back weeks, man. Appreciate you. Keep calling in, man.
Appreciate it, Kyle. Roll Tide, family. Have a good day today.
Roll Tide to you too, man. All right, take it easy. 253, you're up next. Give me just 1 second. I appreciate you being patient. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Please note that Thursday through Sunday, I will be in Clayton, New Mexico. So I'll still have my show. It might be varied times based on I'm going back from my grandfather's services. As I mentioned, he passed away peaceful at the age of 84 a couple weeks ago. Really great grandpa, good father, worked with his hands. He was a carpenter. He built my mother's home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Retired. He was married for 65 years. Just, they don't make guys like this anymore. So while obviously it is a big loss, kind of losing the patriarch of your family, it's amazing to have somebody that was in your family of that caliber, because I think when you look to men and, everything that you want a man to be, or you want your grandfather to be, he was that guy. So we're going to go and celebrate his life. I actually was in charge, and I had the task and the honor, really, to put together his slideshow. So for the last, week and a half, I've been, you know how it is. The family's been sending in photos, and I've been organizing it, and really looking forward to having that honor to, the lasting memories of his great life and all the photos that come in. Time is fleeting all the time. So I'm looking forward to seeing some family. Despite the circumstances. So leaving tomorrow, and I'll be out to Sunday. So for the watch along on Saturday, we'll just play it by ear. I think I might be coming to you from my phone. I'm going to take my equipment, and we'll see how it goes. So it's important that I'm there, obviously, and you will have the week after that, and we'll get through it. So back to the phone lines. 253, you're up next. On the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm calling in from Seattle, Washington. My name is Paxton.
Did you say Paxton?
What did you say?
Did you say Paxton?
Yeah.
Paxton, what's up, man?
Paxton.
I appreciate you calling in, Paxton. Welcome on. How old are you, Paxton?
I'm 13. I'm a young kid, but I like studying college football. So
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, welcome to the show, and all right, give us your take on the college football rankings. Go ahead. We got Paxton calling in from Seattle. Go ahead, Paxton.
Thanks for having me. Looking at the initial rankings, I think Boise State being left out, it's kind of reasonable, but their Week 2 game against Oregon proved themselves to be, a contender after they lost just by 1 field goal in the last second. Wasn't a very controlled game, but it was still a good game. And looking at Notre Dame at number 8, they've really played nobody, and I just don't think they should be above Boise State or above Georgia. I get it. Georgia's lost a lot of games, but they've had a really tough schedule so far. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to keep getting tougher. So, so far that's just my takes. But looking at also SMU.
Okay.
Them being at number 14, just being left out, I think they're a dark horse too. Mm-hmm. They've had a decent schedule, and they've played it off to be good, so, yeah.
What'd you think about, when you on the line with Paxton calling in from Seattle, the SEC, right? So you have all these teams kind of beating up on each other in the SEC. Tennessee's beat Alabama. Alabama's been able to beat Georgia. Georgia beat Texas, but then Ole Miss beat Georgia. Don't you think that schedule of strength should be heavily weighted when you come into the playoffs? For example, Indiana hasn't played one top 25 team. And as just mentioned, the SEC, my goodness, it's an absolute shark tank. Go ahead.
All right, so Indiana's offense is looking really, really good. But they just, as you were saying, they didn't play anyone. Mm-hmm. And the SEC, I think Alabama's just going to keep getting better. Mm-hmm. They played Georgia. They played really everyone. And, it's just Alabama's, I think, is so good this season. I think them losing to Tennessee, I think was surprising to me. But Tennessee, they're really good. I'm a Tennessee fan, but I'm not gonna be biased or anything. So Tennessee, they've had a good schedule so far.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to the Tennessee.
Let me ask you let me ask you one last question, Paxton, before we go. What have been your thoughts on Coach Kalen DeBoer this season? Because you said you're from Seattle, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So my thoughts on Kalen DeBoer.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he stayed at Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a Huskies fan. He did really good at Washington.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing way better than I thought here at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought changing play style, changing all this stuff. He's still bringing Alabama to a title team, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people will agree on that. I think Alabama's just going to, as I was saying, keep getting better and better and better. And I think they could win the national championship this year. It's going to be really tough. I like Kalen DeBoer a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think he's going to keep getting that team better and better and better.
All right. I appreciate the call. Thank you very much, Paxton. You have a good rest of your day, buddy.
Thank you.
All right. You know what? We get, this would be the perfect weekend. We get Paxton in here. We get Bama Probs. Paxton's 13. I think Bama Probs is like 14. They could fly the ship this weekend, So some great, football analysts that are young. I always love when the young guys call in and give their take about college football. It kind of just it reminds me of just kind of that old college football pageantry. That's why we love college football, right? Same thing with the, there's people who love the NFL. I watch the NFL, but there's just something about college football. So I always love to be in that space to cover college football. And as Paxton, you look at what Coach Kalen DeBoer has done in this first season, stepping into the Shark Tank, win over number 2 Georgia, win over number 15 LSU, win over number 21 Missouri. That's where the teams were ranked at that point in time. Number 11 Tennessee, that was a tough game for them. And the defense did a really good job. But, as Paxton mentioned, you look to how Alabama has played as of late. And the stat that I want to continue to write off is, 83 rushing attempts in the last 2 games, 583 rushing yards, last 2 games, 10 rushing touchdowns. Ebony, Kimberly, Max, Nicole, AJ, KTK, Lance, appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. You're starting to see Alabama transform, right? Because you're either getting better or worse, let's face it. And look, if they're going to just ride Jalen Milroe, ride him into the sunset, just win games and play good defense. And I saw a story yesterday where Jalen Milroe, I think he apologized to some of the wide receivers for, the game plan or, how things turned out. And I think it was Ryan Williams who was like, we're not looking at the stats. We're looking at the win column, which, clearly you do at this point in time. So really good stuff. I appreciate you guys joining me today for the score prediction show for my Wednesday show, talking college football playoff rankings. As news happens, I got you covered. I saw Hayes Fawcett of On3 just tweeted out on X that there's some big news coming. That's probably pertaining to some recruiting news. This is flip season. As I mentioned earlier, it looks like you have a couple flips that could take place. I don't know when these flips take place, but here's a look at a couple that we're watching. So you have Caleb Cunningham. He's trending to flip from Alabama to Ole Miss. And you have Ivan Taylor, who is trending to flip from Michigan to Alabama. Now, what we don't have listed on this board is it looks like Dawson Merritt, who is a linebacker that's committed to Alabama. It looks like he is trending to flip to Nebraska. And then Alabama is also targeting another running back. And it looks like, the running back, who's our running back committed from Alabama? Turbo. It looks like Turbo. He probably won't end up in this class. So look, there's a long way to, you think the college football season is crazy? We have college football playoff rankings and you have early signing period on December 4th. So we're going to get super, super busy. We're always busy, but so stay tuned and keep the notifications turned on. I appreciate you guys being here. Notate, as news happens, I'll get videos posted to Bama Football on YouTube. I might be in an airplane. I might be on the road. But this is my livelihood, and I love talking college football with you guys. Please hit the thumbs up. Thank you very much for joining the show today. Thank you very much for calling in. Special thanks to everybody behind the scenes that makes the show possible, but you guys, most importantly, inside the undefeated. Have an amazing day. This is Wednesday, November 13th. You can catch these shows on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. You can also follow us on our Facebook, Instagram channel, which is just Alabama Crimson Tide on Facebook. Have an amazing day. And Josh Miller, Alexa, play songs by Lil Flip. You guys have an amazing day, and I'll catch you soon. Right.